Back in Renegades of Puck podcast. Yes, that's right. The headphones are on here in the bunker. That's because at this time, I'm joined by the one and only Zack McCann, the host of the Predators pregame party. You can catch him live. He's going to plug the dates. He's going to plug the location. And matter of fact, he's going to plug the sponsor as well, because that's the way we do things on the show. Then we're going to talk some Preds hockey. He is the one and only ZMC. If the name sounds familiar, it's because he ain't the first McCann in this town. He also ain't the first to appear on this show. He is Zack McCann.
Charlie, you know how to make a guy feel special. Oh, man, what an honor it is to be making my debut on the Renegades of Puck podcast here. So this is exciting for me, having been a member of the Renegades of Puck hockey team for the last few seasons now. So good times, to pay some bills, of course. Charlie did mention that I am hosting the second Bud Light pregame party at BetMGM Sports Lounge, happening this Saturday night on Keith Urban Bobblehead Night, notwithstanding. January 18th, 4:30 at BetMGM Sports Lounge. Come hang out with me, DJ Battle. Preds are taking on the Wild. They're giving us some actual exciting hockey to watch right now. So it'll be a good time. Come on down.
I encourage everybody, get on out there, join the crew live and in person. ZMC is a great person to hang out with live, get to meet and get to talk pucks with. Believe me, if it's happened in Nashville hockey, he's been a witness to it. So get your opportunity, ask him some questions and hang out with the crew. Always a fun time when you get to get out. ZMC, you said something immediately in the open that piques my interest, and I want to just go right to it because there's been so much negativity the first half of the season. Let's try a little positivity here at the very beginning. Last night, Vegas, all day long. Jonathan Marchessault almost pretending he never played for the Vegas Golden Knights, or perhaps that the Vegas Golden Knights aren't even a team in the NHL. Strategy seemed to have worked. Team came out on fire. Maybe the best period of hockey they played all season long. It was a bit of a roller coaster ride hanging on till the end. But I got to tell you, I put that one in the signature win column over the best team in the Western Conference. What'd you think about that last night?
I ended up watching the game on delay. I was, doing my husbandly duties and playing Mario Party with the wife. So when I actually looked at my phone and saw the score, I thought it was lying to me. I'm not gonna lie. So when I saw we were up 4-0 and ended up, winning that whole thing 5-3, I was thrilled to see that and excited to watch the game. And it was interesting because it felt like the evil twin of the Washington Capitals game, where the Predators similarly were out there flying, just not getting rewarded for it. And this, for some reason, the cellophane was taken off the nets at Bridgestone Arena, and all of a sudden they could fill the net. And it just shows you, and what makes this season all the more frustrating, the tantalizing potential of this team that has not been realized yet. And that should be the goal for the rest of this year, realizing that potential and building those blocks, whether it is for a late style run like they had last year or for building blocks for next season. But regardless, this has to be a developmental period for this team.
Agree with you completely on that. And you mentioned, some things not going that poorly and starting to trend in a very good direction. You have Philip Forsberg scoring in 3 consecutive games after being in quite the drought. And we all understand what a streaky scorer he can be. Marchessault with 14 goals and Stamkos with 14, pacing the Predators. New additions, succeeding and performing at a very high level, definitely being big time influences on the game. And then you go and bring in another backup goaltender who, let's face it, he was outstanding last night when he was called upon in a very, very heavy traffic, busy third period. So some things are really going in the right direction. It is great to see the compete level of a Stamkos, a Marchessault, and then, of course, you have to throw O'Reilly in anytime you talk about compete level. But to see these veteran players come to Nashville and be out there barking at officials, getting in people's faces. And I can only imagine being demonstrative as well with some of the youngsters as they're coming along. But it's really great to see such star power still have that fire in the belly.
It's exciting because you see these players capture that fountain of youth one more time. And I know that it's very easy to rip on this team for the season that they've had so far. But Jonathan Marchessault and Steven Stamkos have been as advertised really since November, I would say. They have been the leadership that you want on the ice. And especially once they did the combination of them with Philip Forsberg, that is your first line for the next 4 years. Now it's about figuring out who's going to be on the second. I've enjoyed that combination of Ryan O'Reilly, Zach LaRue, and Goose Nyquist. I don't know how much longer that's going to last or anything with there, but I do think that LaRue does stand a chance of continuing to play in that top six. If not, there are players like Joachim Kemmel in the pipeline, different kinds of offensive threats. I mean, heck, Teddy Stiga having the golden goal for the U.S. I mean, there is some offensive talent in this pipeline that is coming down.
Absolutely outstanding to watch some of the youth and some of the positive, of course. Again, it was a lot of negativity the first half of the season, and we're not just trying to point out that in a better direction after what was a brutal first 30 games. We have seen some improvement on home ice, especially, which is where the Preds are residing right now, Bridgestone Arena, in the middle of a homestand. Listen, hosting the Washington Capitals, regardless of the back-to-back travel circumstances, they're still the Capitals with the grade 8 in the chase. So that was a very difficult game, followed up with Vegas, another first-place team. But now you have Chicago, Minnesota, San Jose. And I'm not saying Minnesota is an easy win, but that was my 50-50 toss-up. So the Preds had two that I didn't think they were going to be able to handle in the two first-place teams. Two that they should handle with Chicago and San Jose, and Minnesota was my 50-50. But, Zach, the Preds on home ice, respectively, are going for their 10th win, which would make them 10-8-3 now on the home rink. And after they were underwater for quite a bit of time, October, November into December, it's nice to see that they're at least over 500 at Bridgestone Arena, and that's one of those foundational building blocks that I think you were talking about.
It's been interesting, too, because if you look at the schedule this year, it's almost been a baseball-esque schedule. A ton of games at home, then really long road trips. Another big stretch at home, really long road trip. It's really kind of felt like that in a lot of ways. So it's nice after the struggles at home where you have players who are dealing with, daily life, being people outside of the rink. Then you see them go on the road, struggle a bit there, too, but they're starting to find some of that chemistry. I think it's very telling that as we're getting towards this middle point of the season, you're starting to see a similar turn that they had last year when they went on that historic streak. Now, am I saying that another one of those is coming? Absolutely not. But I do think it's interesting that Andrew Burnett's system does seem to take a second to gel with people who are coming in. And there are a lot of new parts on this team. So it's kind of to be expected that you're going to see something like this where players are still kind of trying to figure out their place in this new environment.
You said his name, so let's touch that third rail right now.
Sure.
Andrew Burnett was absolutely on the hot seat as far as the fan base was concerned. Several people in the media certainly stirring that up as well. But Barry Trotz was fairly defensive in saying it takes coaches time to grow, just like it does players, just like it takes. I believe he might have also been projecting a little bit of himself as a new GM at the NHL level. So Andrew Burnett was perceived to be on the hot seat, though I don't think internally ever truly was. And you just mentioned it. Now players that were a little bit frustrated back in October, November, and were speaking their piece a little bit, seem to be now finding a bit of their first offensive stride as Nashville Predators and within the Andrew Burnett system. So it does kind of seem like, though it took half a season to get to this point, things are starting to function within that system, and we are certainly seeing an uptick. And listen, I'm talking small gains here, but to sit here for the last 3 months and say that the Predators were 32nd in the NHL in goals for per game, and now ZMC, I can say they're 31st. That means they scored goals recently. They're upticking. They're moving up. It's a small gain, but positive gains in the Andrew Burnett system means the coach might be starting to get going in the right direction. What do you think about that?
Well, there are two things I want to touch on with that. The first one is that, we have to make no mistake about this. Andrew Burnett is bringing a foundational shift to the mindset of what is typically the Predator way. This is an attack first offense. This is something where when you're doing something that is a little more radical, it's not just flip a switch and instantly, oh, we get it. When you're taking traditional defensive structure, traditional way that players are attacking the puck, and doing something new with it, you have to unlearn so many habits. And when you have new players in prime ice positions, Brady Shea, Marchessault, Stamkos, other players who are getting their chance to be here in the show with them, it's going to take time. And I realize that patience is difficult, especially when you're in a town that is used to, a college football-esque lifestyle where you live and die on one loss. It can be very difficult to ask for that patience. And I'm not saying anyone should be happy about the way the season has gone. I can assure you the folks at 501 Broadway are not happy with the way things have gone here. But to say that Andrew Brunette's on the hot seat or anything like that, I completely agree with you. Internally, not a chance. They're letting him grow. They're letting him develop.
Yeah, you can just tell by the comments. You don't hear coaches being defended by the GMs too heavily in the NHL, especially with the success rate, unfortunately, of recent midseason coaching changes. That seems to allow a lot of people around the league, that copycats and parodies, that it seemed like the only way to solve the Predators' problem was to run Andrew Brunette out of town on the fastest train as possible, flush it all, start it over again, and of course, like the Penguins, like the Bruins, and like the St. Louis Blues, you were going to suddenly just rise to the top of the standings. That wasn't going to happen with this team, ZMC. So I think that we're both on to something here. Andrew Brunette being safe, the GM certainly backing that up with his comments. One more about Barry Trotz, the GM. Some rumors out there this week. Impressed. Glad to see him doing media appearances still. Glad to see him answering direct questions. Whether I like the personality asking the questions or not, that's just a little thing there. Well, that's a side. But a direct question was asked, direct questions were answered, and I feel that Barry Trotz so far at least has been very genuinely willing to answer questions and give you an answer where most general managers, coaches, GMs, whatever it is in the front office, really don't like to give answers. I do feel that Barry Trotz is communicating to the fan base as well as a GM can.
It's almost unsettling in a way, because after years of David Poile, who is an absolute beauty, and I'm sure we'll talk about the Golden Hall induction here later on that, honored him, Shea Weber, and Pekka Rinne today. But at the same time, David Poile was always very measured, very careful with his words. And Barry Trotz brings a more open style to his communication. Those appointments that he has on the flagship station are appointment listening. I enjoy listening to them because you're hearing someone truly talk about the game and treat you with that level of intelligence and respect, that they're not just going to pull your leg and say something that is just, empty word salad. It's one of the things that I really love about Barry as a human being and even as a GM to start. Now, you mentioned one thing earlier that I wanted to touch on. Did you know that the Nashville Predators have the worst shooting percentage in 10 years right now? Their shooting percentage is the lowest shooting percentage since, I believe, the Sabres in 2012. So let's not also discount the historic bad luck that this team is enduring right now. The hockey gods are very cruel.
Posts, crossbars, missed shots by Philip Forsberg, something I never thought I would see. The guy with the most lethal and accurate wrist shot in franchise history suddenly completely lost range of his sights. ZMC, I'm convinced he has a newborn, holding him in one arm, shifted his balance just a little bit, threw his shot off. Listen, the game is funky like that, my friend, and you know that. Crazy things happen, but Phil Forsberg seems to be getting his shot back on site. That's going to help the shooting percentage. And also, when Stamkos can convert from seemingly any angle at any time, that's also going to help. But you're right. There was a historic level of bad luck for this team the first 30-plus games of the season, between posts, between missed shots, and between low shooting percentage. Historic. That opens up a new avenue right here. Let's talk about that real quick. I mean, ZMC, you've been here since the beginning. You've seen it all. So that means after last night, you've seen 1,000 Predators wins. The second fastest franchise in history by number of games played to reach 1,000 wins. Oh, and the team just ahead of the Predators, and that just happens to be the team from the town you're from originally, the family's from originally, up there in Philly, the Flyers, but only by a matter of a couple of games. That, to me, when you look into that and you look at the history of this league and these teams and this sport, to see the Nashville Predators being the second fastest franchise in history. And you mentioned the Predator way. A lot of those games were 2-1, 1-0, even back in the early seasons. But the Preds managed to compile enough victories to reach 1,000, the second fastest in league history. And, well, ZMC, you've been a witness to every single minute of it.
I don't think it's really a hot take to say that when Gary Bettman looks back on his success stories, that the Nashville Predators have to be towards the top of that list. I mean, none of these other expansion teams have hit 1,000 games in this threshold. Like you mentioned, the Flyers, who, my adopted hometown of Philly. That's my dad's hometown. I'm from Nashville originally, but when you look at what this team has done over the last 26 seasons, it's been interesting to go era by era. You have that hard-nosed initial Andrew Brunette on the team, Barry Trotz coaches one, then you get to that point where you start to see some real talent come in. And it's been interesting because Steven Stamkos coming in reminds me of those first few games when Peter Forsberg first joined this team. You see players getting passes and not knowing what to do with it because they're not used to getting a pass like that. It's just exciting to see when you've got those generational style talents, even in the twilight of their careers, still having that spark of just creativity and madness with the puck that is just so exciting to watch. So 1,000 games. I mean, what more can you say? It's been up, it's been down. There are some huge highlights, but I mean, even today is a special day honoring 3 pillars of the franchise.
100%. Take me there. I have so many stories with those particular players. David Poyle is still angry with me for eating his hot dog in pregame dinner down in the basement many, many years ago. And I still laugh that he remembers that even. Shea Weber saw me with a credential on and gave me the meanest look I've ever been given by an athlete in my life. But then he saw me an hour later without a credential on and was the nicest, happiest, smilingest guy I'd ever met. And Pekka Rinne, listen, there are few people that are as awesome as Pekka Rinne when it comes right down to it. So honoring these 3, having these 3 back in the building for the 1,000th win. I mean, what an incredible moment that is, celebrating all the alumni and all of the different things that the Preds are starting to do historically. I've not been here since day 1. I arrived in season 4. ZMC, I didn't think you guys knew what the hell you were doing out here. So I invaded and said, give me a microphone. And for some reason, Pete Weber and your dad helped me get that. And ever since then, we've been doing this. But 25 years of history for this organization, a Hall of Fame GM, a Hall of Fame defenseman, a whole hell of a lot of great memories, a Stanley Cup final hosted in this town, All-Star game, 2 drafts, and a town that had some great under-the-radar minor league hockey in the past, exploded onto the NHL scene, and for 25 years has been riding that bull and never letting go. Talk to me about 25 years of Predators history. Just any thoughts you want to add to it.
I mean, I think it's fascinating and almost the perfect timing for the Predators to start their new Golden Hall. The idea that this team now has enough history, enough memories to have its own Hall of Fame. It does make me wonder, okay, this is the first class. What does the second class look like? For me, I think there are players like David Legwand who meant so much to this franchise. I'm not sure if we're past this point yet. We might have to wait until he retires in a couple years. I would put Ryan Suter on that list of legendary Predators. Do I think he'll ever end up in that hall? Probably not. Things did not end well there, but time does heal all wounds. Correct. I think goaltenders like Mike Dunham, Thomas Vokoun. I mean, these are players who were legends in those early days. I go back and I think about Paul Kariya, the first big marquee free agent to sign with the Nashville Predators. That was a huge cornerstone moment. I must have been probably 12, 13 when that happened. And I remember just like feeling like it was a Christmas present in July at that point when you hear Paul Kariya is coming to Nashville Predators. I'm like, Paul Kariya from Mighty Ducks 2? That's amazing. Wow. It's exciting when you get those kind of marquee players. I mean, yes, the big moments you can go back to. the 2017 run. I was living in Chicago at that point and literally took overnight mega buses to get here for home playoff games. Like, that was the level. There was no way I was missing any of that. But for me, it's family, honestly. Those are the biggest memories for me. My dad, prior to becoming the voice of the Predators in their PA box, was a season ticket holder and would take me, my brother, my sister, my mom to games. We only had 2 tickets, so we had to split it all up, and mom always got the weekends. But it was those trips to Jack's on Broadway, going to watch the team, yelling things at the refs that he could never yell now because he actually knows them, that sort of thing, that are really special memories for me as a person. And it helps me continue to be a fan to this day, even when times are lean, because you have those to lean on and be with and remember, wow, this sport has given me so much. The least I can do is, yell and scream and be there for them too.
It's the same for me, ZMC, and a lot of people on this show don't necessarily know my origin story with the Predators. Starts with Mark Hollingsworth in Section 303, where he realized there was a kid from Jersey that had moved here that had one big voice, and decided he needed to put me in row L right in the middle for a solid 10 years there. And I screamed my head off because I wanted the NHL to succeed here in Nashville, and I wanted hockey to become as popular as I thought it should be, and I wanted everyone to feel that passion, that fire. So for a long time, I was up there in Section 303 helping on a nightly basis get things done. And it was your dad and it was Pete who helped me get that microphone and get that first radio job here in Nashville. They realized I was a kid that showed up with a hockey stick in one hand and a suitcase in the other, and just like so many other Nashville stories, was just determined to make it in my field, which was covering hockey. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's been so awesome. My favorite moment that I was ever a part of was the first standing ovation, being live in the building. When that happened, it was an emotional feeling that I've only been able to rival with things like the Stanley Cup final and a couple of other moments. But even just a regular season game, standing up and clapping and cheering for 3 straight minutes, it was enough to send emotions through me that I didn't know I could feel. So it's been important to me, and I've met you, your family, I've met the Webbers, I've made friends for life, contacts, connections, coworkers, just about everything because of this Nashville Predators organization. So it's been an honor to be here covering them for the last nearly 20 years out of my 29 years of covering things and doing this. So the Predators have been a fantastic organization to me, to a lot of people. And if I could add one name to go into the next class, and this is my real Predators moment and story. This is and I'm not kidding, ZMC, the headphones with the Walkman hidden in the hoodie during class at MTSU as Steve Sullivan is making his debut with the Nashville Predators. And I have got to tell you, that might be the most excited I had seen this fan base ever get up to that point. Of course, we'd have bigger moments and escalating things after, but Steve Sullivan's debut, the 10 points in 3 games that he had, just electrified everything about Nashville, Nashville sports, Nashville hockey. And it was just a bolt of lightning from the littlest spark plug you'd ever expected from. But man, did he come in here ready to throw Nashville on his shoulders and make those first magical moments happen. Sully would be my first nomination for the next wave of the Golden Hall.
Yeah, I mean, Sully, Pete, and Terry. I mean, Sully kind of kicked off that like electric debut thing that really had Nashville Predators players going for a while. I mean, heck, when PK Subban first came in, scored that goal in his first game. I mean, Ryan Johansson, like you think of those first game heroics.
JP Dumont scored his first game.
Oh my gosh, that's a fun list to put together. Best Predator debuts. All right, I'm thinking here.
Together. All right, I think we might have to get together and do this again.
Absolutely, my friend.
All right, ZMC, listen, I want you to plug the Predators pregame one more time, and then I want to talk about one more thing before we get you out of here. Because I mean, listen, I can do this all day long. I know you can, but I want to spread our conversations out over several weeks, several episodes, and give people a chance to digest it. So that was some good, intense Predators talk. I love it. I enjoy it. I really, really like talking to you about it. Let's pick that conversation up again later. But now, plug what you're doing. Plug the next event this Saturday.
Absolutely happy to do it. If you haven't come down before the game and enjoyed Nashville, it's the best way to get, better parking. You get closer to the arena, less of a walk coming out. Come hang out with me starting at 4:30 at BetMGM Sports Lounge for the Bud Light pregame party. We're going to be giving away all kinds of stuff. Last time we gave away a new jersey. We gave away tickets to the Golden Hall induction. We're giving away all kinds of free stuff. It's awesome. Playing games, drink specials, exclusive prizes. We even have like different tailgate games you can play there. It's a really good time, and it's Keith Urban bobblehead night. So who doesn't want to go get a nice Australian bobblehead with his marginally less famous wife, I would say, right? She hasn't done anything except for be the best Batman girl, and I'll die on that hill because her and Batman forever. Woof. But yeah, 4:30, BetMGM Sports Lounge, me, DJ Battle, come hang out. We're going to have some fun. What do you got for me, Chuckles?
You will spin us off into a whole nother avenue that goes hours of that. So we'll I'm punting.
That's locker room talk right there.
I'm coming back to that locker room talk. That's what this next segment's going to be. Listen, ZMC is one of the top left wingers on the Renegades of Puck Hockey Club after winning a championship last season in Nolensville, moving up a level to the D-League. Tougher competition, a longer schedule, 18-game regular season, 3-game playoff tournament. ZMC back on the squad over there on left wing and holding it down. ZMC, it was an adjustment period, just like for those Nashville Predators to the new league and the new competition. But after the first 5-6 games, the D-core, the goaltending, and now the forwards have all started to really get some chemistry and gel together. And now the squad's 6-5-1. I see you out there skating your tail off, covering on the back end, jamming away at the front of the net. ZMC, talk to me about the Renegades of Puck Hockey Club.
Far be it from me to compare myself to Philip Forsberg, but from streakiness, that's me right now, and it has been a long streak. So if I can't help out filling the net, then I might as well skate my bag off and try and help with some of the other stuff there. So, it's been cool. It's been nice to kind of get some of that consistency, play with the same line mates. Shout out to Bryce and TJ. They've been awesome to play with. So, it's been cool to see the team really gel and really just be out there and support each other. That was the thing I texted our group team thread about the other day, was just the level of commitment, work ethic, and support. Everyone had each other's backs out there. And a big shout out to who we played on Sunday night too. Just a great group of guys. It didn't get too mean or intense as some of these games can certainly get when you get a bunch of grown men together who are trying to compete. But it's been fun, and it's been a great time at Fordyce Center Antioch getting to play, and I'm excited for the rest of the season because I think we're really starting to figure it out.
Stat of the game against the Catfish Cowgirls, that might have been the only game in Renegades of Puck history where there was not a single penalty on either side, which speaks to the level of fun, competitive, hard-fought, spirited play, which that game had, unlike the amount of stick work the week before. But we'll move on from that. So, yes.
I do want to honor something there, Cap.
Go ahead.
You made your long-awaited return to the ice as well on Sunday night. How'd it feel getting back out there for a couple shifts?
You know what? I stole 2 shifts from 2 much more deserving players to be out there on the rink, but I wanted to touch the ice. I wanted to see it with my own eyes again, feel it with my own eyes. I touched the puck maybe twice, but got in hard on the forecheck, got in good on a rush with good old AD and Luke Youngblom, which Luke Youngblom might be the prototypical finest looking rec hockey player in history. Man, I don't know how I ended up getting lucky enough to draft Luke Youngblom, but when you get a winger who's well over 6 foot with long arms and a good stride and can put the puck in the net with regularity, man, as a GM and coach, I'll just say I lucked out on that one. That had nothing to do with me recruiting out on the fringes and trying to find Luke, but it's been fantastic welcoming in new Renegades and starting to build the team moving forward. And we've got a whole lot more season to go. We got a third of the season left plus a playoff tournament. We're right there on the fringe of the playoff cut right now. So very much looking forward to it, ZMC. And it felt good. Felt good to touch the puck. It felt good to talk to the refs again. It felt good to just be out there. So it took 2 shifts and celebrated like I won the Stanley Keg. So
that's all that matters.
It was great though, man. It just felt good to be out there with you guys. Being out for 6 months, standing behind the bench. I wanted to support the team in any way I could the whole time, but man, it's not the same. You can't lead your team from behind the bench, especially in these leagues. So being out there, being in front of the crew, and being able to do it, it sure felt good.
1-0 when the Cap's back in the lineup is all I'm saying. So
appreciate that. All right, ZMC, let's do this again sometime. What do you say? Let's figure out some way to have this conversation more than once this season.
Beautiful. Let's do it, man. I'm in.
He's Zack McCann. He is the host of the Predators pregame show. He is also a man about town. If you see him, say hello to him. He's one of the finest Renegades you'll ever meet. Zack McCann, thank you so much for coming on the Renegades of Puck podcast.
Thank you, sir. Always happy to be a part of it. Let's go, Renegades.